Welcome to Janktown. Will here, and today we'll be discussing the Ice Queen of Eldraine, Hylda of the Icy Crown. Now, instead of doing the full-on deck tech, which we normally do, we'll be doing like a quick bite type of thing, where we won't be going into the full 99, but I will still be giving you guys enough structure, as well as some highly recommended card choices, so that you can start your own journey towards building your own Hylda Commander deck. Now, Hylda is a 4-mana value 3/4 human warlock, and whenever we tap an untapped creature an opponent controls, we may pay 1. Now, when we do, we get to choose one. Create a 4/4 white and blue elemental creature token. We get to put up some counter on each creature we control, or we scry 2 and we draw a card. So the value and versatility that Hylda brings is pretty good. It's scary good, I would say. And I love her card design because it's a fresh but powerful take on what I think is one of the more difficult mechanics to balance, which is tap. Because tapping for me has always been it sort of swung hard on either end of the power spectrum, right? Because if you're trying to do tempo plays and things like that, it's really hard to pull off, especially in a 4-player game like Commander where you have 3 opponents. But on the other hand, if you're doing it so effectively, you could just essentially lock the whole board down. And that's pretty much stacks, real hard stacks. And a lot of players don't like to go up against that in casual. So I think Hylda does a pretty good job in dipping her toes, or has the potential rather to dip her toes in either side of the power fence. So if we break her down, I think Hylda is a commander that we build around, right? It's easy to see why. She can amass game-winning board states, dig for answers when there are problems. But to make all of that happen, we need to jump through a very specific hoop of tapping down our opponent's creatures, right? Now, there have been many ways that this effect has been printed over Magic's 50,000, 40,000 card pool. But my general advice here is we'd want these effects attached to permanents so that it can be repeatable, right? As one-offs, Hylda's abilities aren't all that impressive, but if you can get them over and over again, then I think they snowball pretty hard. So some cards that I think we can look at are Timon, Youthful Geist, taps down a creature at every combat step, meaning we get 4 taps every turn cycle. Citadel Siege, if we choose dragons, right, we get 3 taps every turn cycle. And Hammers of Moradin. I feel like I should be saying Mirrodin. Hammers of Mirrodin, because when it attacks, it triggers Myriad, and then we actually get to tap 9 different creatures across 3 different opponents, right? But these all show up mid-game, so I think bringing in some low-costed tappers like Gideon's Lawkeeper, Gold Meadow Harrier, Master Decoy, these are all good stopgaps on the curve. I mean, they're not super impressive, but they're like glue, right? They will cost us 1 to tap, unlike the other 3 cards I mentioned, and they only tap once per turn cycle. But I like these cards because they can provide us some constant and consistent value throughout the game. While also only requiring either a one-time mana investment when we cast a spell, or a very small investment of 1 mana, right? That way we still get the whole tap effect pretty reliably, and also, more importantly, pretty efficiently. Now, aside from these, there are also some cards that can be practically game enders with Hylda. I mean, they don't go outright infinite, but they come close to it. Junkwinder is a 7-drop, but it can get costed less. Then when we get our first token, such as from Hylda's ability, we can keep tapping down other creatures for as long as we have enough mana, because we keep creating tokens with Hylda. Same logic applies to a card like Sunstrike Legionnaire, although this is more conditional in that it only covers creatures with mana value 3 or less. Another combo piece is Court Street Denizen, since Hylda makes blue and white elementals, right? So each time we pay the 1, it'll trigger the human, allowing us to tap down more and more creatures. Finally, keeping it classic, well, at least for me, is Opposition. Now, I don't know how many of you guys were around during the whole Squirrel Opposition thing, when it was the thing, but it works in Hylda. We get to tap a creature, and that makes us an elemental. We tap that new elemental to tap down another creature, makes us another elemental, and we keep going as long as we have enough mana and creatures to tap down. Now, if you do want some spicy tech, we can run this with either Ashnod's Altar or Phyrexian Altar, right? We can sack the tap token, get our mana, and this pays for the next Hylda trigger, right? And we can keep tapping the board down until we either win the game or somebody wipes. So I won't be running this, at least I don't think I will, but either way, good tech, definitely worth knowing. If you notice though, I'm purposefully picking cards where it won't require mana or much mana to activate, because activating Hylda already costs us 1. And if you've ever played against a Rhystic Study, you know how annoying it can be to have that like 1 extra mana or multiple 1 mana just to always pay for it, right? And so this is why I'm wary of creatures that tap things as like ETB, or if it comes attached with an aura or it's an instant or so, you know, essentially like one-time stuff. Because maybe I'd be willing to give it a pass if it was only like 1 or 2 mana value, say like Feeling of Dread or Jerry's Renunciation, you know, costs 2 mana. So essentially it's like paying a total of 4 to be able to scry 4, draw 2. You know, it's okay, not bad. But even if you take a card to say like Pressure Point, which is tap a creature and draw a card for 2, if we use Hylda, we pay like a total of 3. And what do we get? We get to scry 2, draw 2. It's like Read the Bones. Not bad, I mean, but like if we had to play our commander just to read the bones, I mean, I know reading the bones explains the bones, but it's okay. It's just okay. Once we get to 3 to 4 mana value though, like Sleep, I don't know, I think it's too much. X spells, I don't know. Man, I think it's a sucker's game. Not to say that the cards aren't useful. They do have their own uses, but I treat these cards as more like a game ender, you know, a way to set up an alpha strike and not really a way to build up our board or start getting value. A card though with that effect that I might be willing to give a pass on is Ensnare. Just because it's essentially free. You know, we can float the 2 mana before we bounce the 2 islands back to our hands. But otherwise, I think the deck becomes way too mana intensive, and you know, being in Azorius, it's not really something we excel at, having all that mana. There are some ways to mitigate that if we want. Victory Chimes, I think, is a cute effect. We get to untap every turn. And Unwinding Clock, another one, you know, especially if we're playing a lot of mana rocks. We can also leverage Power Stones from Brothers War, right? It helps us pay for the 1. But again, since we aren't running like an artifact deck, we are pretty much running a tap deck. It could be a bit awkward. Now, one last thing before we wrap up. Keep in mind that for Hylda to work, we need our opponents to have creatures. So even if Azorius is good at it, we probably want to ease up a bit on the Wraths. I would pack things like Ghostly Prison, Propaganda, Windborn Muse in some of our usual Wrath slots, or even some conditional Wraths, like by invitation only. Especially if we're going up against another go-wide deck, it'll really help, you know, just keep things in check. And there you have it. Now if you found this useful or know someone who might, I hope you could share it with them. And either way, I hope you can still leave a like and subscribe. You know, it really helps the channel out. You know, your support really goes a long way in keeping our videos going. I'll have more of these quick take videos as we try to cover, you know, more of the Wilds of Eldraine commanders. But don't worry, we'll still be doing a bunch of full-on deck decks as well. If there is a commander though that you want us to go and check out, hope you can leave it in the comments below. But until next time, stay inspired, friends, and I'll see you soon.